Hi guys. The new shop's really starting to come together. We got our final inspection and now we're ready to start working on some building workstations and some benches and filming our first projects. If you're new here, let me recap the last 3 months. I bought this building on the main street of my hometown. I'm renting half of it out to the post office and I'm taking the other half for a new workshop and filming studio. We've installed a couple of new rooms, some new lights, some new dust collection, some new wires, and we've begun moving in some machines. There's still a fair amount of work to be done, but we're completely out of the old shop now, and I'm starting to get a little sentimental. Maybe some of you are too, since you've seen the old shop evolve for the better part of a decade. It was always changing, sometimes for the better, and sometimes stuff was just getting shuffled around so I could fit more crap inside. I never really did a full shop tour because I never felt like I had it the way I wanted. I always felt like I want to finish that before I do a shop tour, and then there was something else, and suddenly, all that time goes by. But before we tore it apart for the last time, I decided to take the camera back in and film what it looked like in its final form. So here's the first and last tour of the original Stumpy Nubs workshop. We'll start at the door where I came out of the house each day, coffee in hand and ready to roll. And by roll, I meant I usually had some type of pastry. The wall to the right was for personal milestones, including my first book, some of my first magazine articles, and a couple of awards that nobody would care about but me. Beneath that is my Jet 1836 drum sander, which I don't use much, but it's a solid machine that works really well. It's one of those things that you're glad to have when you need it. These long rulers and levels act as wind chimes when the door to the outside's opened. I think I may miss that sound. Stumpy Pete's House of Ham has nothing to do with the name of my YouTube channel. It's just a metal sign that I used to cover the electrical sub-panel because there used to be a wooden door on there that people gave me crap about. On the door to the outside, there's an advertising banner from a live presentation I did with Roy Underhill in Kansas City back in 2015. He was nice enough to sign it for me when we were finished. We had a great time. I also have a Rubo book stand he made for me. That little hat rack may not look like much, but it's one of the few fixtures left from the hardware store our family owned when I was in my teens and 20s. It used to hold screwdrivers. The dollar bill is there for setting my bandsaw guides and in case I need to put something in the swear jar. This is Ricon's deluxe 14-inch bandsaw. I have never been happy with it for various reasons. It's the older green model. I think I've had it for about 5 or 6 years, and it had a crappy fence and kind of crappy guides. I upgraded for $200 to their new guides, and those work okay, but I haven't been able to find their upgraded fence for sale. I'm probably not going to put any more money into it. I'll just replace the whole thing. That rust spot shows what happens when you leave a piece of pressure-treated wood on the table overnight. Thanks, Mustache Mike. One thing I do like is the carbide resaw blade I have installed. It cuts like butter and it stays sharp forever, which is important because dull blades drift. I highly recommend carbide if you can afford the investment. This 1990s Delta jointer is one of the first proper woodworking machines I ever got. My grandfather bought it and a planer for me. I've since upgraded both with helical cutter heads, and then I had to upgrade the planer because the feed rollers weren't working so great, to that DeWalt that I have now, which also now has a carbide cutter head. And with the new shop, I'm changing out both machines to stationary models. Circle of life, I guess. By the way the planer is mounted above the jointer works really well in a small shop with limited floor space. We made a video about it a couple years ago. I recommend checking it out. On the wall next to the planer is my router boss. This is really where I store it because there isn't enough room to use it here. I had to take it down and put it on top of a bench to make projects. But in the new shop, it'll have all the wall space it needs, and I'm pretty excited about that. I was always going to make a carving bench to go on this space, but that just never happened. Maybe I'll do it in the new shop. That hickory will become bathroom furniture sometime this fall. You may remember the video we made this past spring about the lathe tool cabinet? Well, there it is. I still love my Nova Saturn DVR lathe. I do have room in the new shop for a full-size lathe now, so I may have to check out Nova's big DVR lathe. That clock in the corner was a CNC project a long time ago. Lots of people thought it was meant to be suggestive with the zipper. I just thought it was an interesting project. Zippers are on more than just pants, folks. That little Harbor Freight compressor has been a great value for what it costs. I got a bigger one in the new shop, but this one was perfectly fine for my needs. My Cyclone served me well for years too. I put a new one in the new shop, but not because this one wasn't any good. I just wanted to try out the new steel model and they were offering. I'll leave this one here in case I need it someday. Maybe the wife will use it to vacuum the car. Another thing that's not going to the new shop are the softbox lights. These were fairly new technology when I started filming. Now they just look like big bloated dinosaurs hanging all over the ceiling. The green screen's staying too. I only used it a few times. It was too much of a pain to light evenly. My hand tool wall is moving over pretty much intact. I think it may evolve over time, but I want to maintain some familiarity in our videos from one shop to the next. There are lofts all the way around the shop here. I'm not entirely sure what I'll do with the wood in them. I may just leave it up there until I need it. The clamps and jigs will have to come down though. In fact, there are clamps tucked in corners all over the place. I'd like them to be more centralized in the new shop. Here's another of my favorite tools, my Nova DVR drill press. I fell in love with this thing immediately, and I can't imagine being without it now that I've been spoiled by its features. The miter station isn't that old, but it's headed to the scrap bin. Not the saw. I love the Bosch Easy Glide saw. But I have plans for a better miter station in the new shop. I also have better plans for the computer, or should I say computers, since the new shop has 5 of them. I always thought my shop was a little cramped, but now that I look at this video, it amazes me how much stuff I had in there. Every nook and cranny is full. But believe it or not, it was all pretty well organized. I knew where just about everything was when I needed it. I bought this basic jet 14-inch bandsaw for curve cutting so I didn't have to swap the blades on the Rikon. It's been a big disappointment too, because honestly, I just think it's a crappy saw. That's the teleprompter we've used here on the right. We upgraded that in the new shop too. It'll also be nice to have central air and air conditioning instead of the wall-mounted gas heater I've been using here for years. In the center of the shop is the table saw with 2 built-in router tables. If you watched the last vlog, you already know the cool changes we made to this in the new shop. And this seldom seen back corner has a stairway up to the attic and a set of stairs that go down to a dungeon beneath the house. The attic stairway is more of a ladder, but it is sturdier than it looks thanks to the plywood rack beneath it. And that's it. In this 17 by 24 space, we filmed nearly 500 woodworking videos. And while I have a much bigger shop now, I'm not abandoning the small shop concept because a lot of our audience can really relate to that. We have plans to build a 1-car garage-sized shop space in the corner of this new shop, sort of a shop in a shop, where we're going to film a regular series of videos and projects for building a small shop and setting it up and making projects in it. That's just one of the many big things we have in store for the future of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. But for now, let's just sit back and have ourselves a cold one, because you earned it, my friend. Nova has long been a leader in wood turning innovation, but their new DVR motors for lathes and drill presses are a game changer. No belts, fast and smooth speed changes, and smart technology that can do things you never thought possible. You have got to check these things out at the link below this video. Wait, don't go yet. If you're new here, please subscribe and remember to ring the bell. I would really appreciate that. Give us a thumbs up, or better yet, leave us a comment. I always read them. And be sure to check out the latest issue of Stumpy Nubs Woodworking Journal. It's always packed with tips, tricks, and tutorials designed to make you a better woodworker.